But as we do each and every Monday, let's react to all of the Big 12 basketball action from this weekend. We put a minute on the clock and take a look at all of these games in the Big 12. Taman Turner, T-Chain's our producer. What do you have for us?
All right, guys, starting off the game yesterday, Cincinnati at Utah.
That's right. Cincinnati played Utah.
Yesterday, on a Sunday.
69-65 was the final in this one. Mustafa Tiem for Cincinnati at 15 points and 10 rebounds. Also added 4 blocks, so he filled up the stat sheet in a nice home win for Cincinnati over Utah.
Guys, Cincinnati's all of a sudden just one game below 500 in Big 12 play. They are 6-7 in league. They are 14-12 overall. Could they be the team making a push for an NCAA tournament bid? They are top 11 in the country in defensive efficiency rating, and their offense is starting to come around. They are 51st, number 51 in KenPom. That's one spot higher than UCF. They're higher than Oklahoma, higher than Missouri, higher than LSU, higher than West Virginia. You see where I'm headed?
Yeah.
Cincinnati with Jizzle James and his emergence offensively starting to come around.
Yeah, and Day Thomas had a big one in this one. So you're right. It's sort of interesting. At 14-12, they're at 6-7 in Big 12 play, and we've had Brian Thornton talking about how no team in the history of the Big 12 has been left out at 500 or better. So we'll see.
All right, next one, guys, a non-conference game, Louisville at Baylor.
Yeah, Baylor falls to Louisville at Dickies Arena in Fort Worth. It felt like any time Baylor would make a run here, Louisville would shut the door, but Baylor did not shoot the ball well at all. They went 2 of 22 from 3 and shot 37% from the floor in this one in Fort Worth. They did hit 25 of 30 free throws. That's what kept them in this game. But the Cardinals shot 56% from the field and 44% from 3. And again, like any time it felt like Baylor would make a run in this one, Louisville would shut the door. Great shooting for Louisville in this one.
Yeah, I thought this was a really favorable matchup for Baylor because Louisville's a really good offensive team, but they really struggled defensively, and so I felt like maybe Baylor could keep up in a really high-scoring game. Mikel Brown Jr., who's going to be a lottery pick, another one of these high-level freshmen, 29 points and 6 assists, only 14 field goal attempts for him. He was efficient for Louisville, but the defense for Baylor was the problem. I mean, Louisville's very dynamic offensively. They remind me a lot of BYU in terms of their spacing. They shoot 56% for the game. You will not win games in any conference allowing the opponent to shoot that well.
Yep.
All right, next one, Colorado at BYU.
Well, BYU gets the win, and Rob Wright went crazy with 39 points in this one. A.J. Debinsa with 20, 13, and 8. But really the story here is Richie Saunders tears his ACL, and his college career is now officially over as he makes that announcement. He said via social media following the game that he tore his ACL, ending his season and likely his BYU career. But, yeah, Rob Wright, 39 points. Debinsa was marvelous in this one, filling it up as BYU gets the win 90-86 in overtime.
Man, just a devastating situation for BYU, but even more so for Richie Saunders, who could have entered the NBA draft last year and would have been probably a mid-second round pick. He comes back to school and tears his ACL just 45 seconds into this game. He will only be about 4 or 5 months into his rehab at the NBA draft this upcoming summer. So what does this do to his draft stock? That's what I have my eye on. But if there's one guy that can bounce back from that type of injury who just plays relentless effort on both ends, it's Richie Saunders, so I wish him the best.
All right, James knows this game well. Kansas State at Houston.
Yeah, not a bad showing for the Wildcats. The 10-1 Houston Cougars against the 1-10 K-State Wildcats. And, I mean, they kept it close. You know, maybe they needed more of this game plan throughout the rest of their season. But, James, you were Mike's side for this one. What'd you see?
Well, Kansas State played maybe with their best effort all season long. They jumped out to a 15-6 lead, and it wasn't just a couple of desperation threes going in and how they built that advantage. You know, it took Houston about 9 minutes to get going offensively. But boy, did they answer. They closed the half on a 27-4 run. K-State tied a program low for points and a half with 19 at the break. Houston turned that run into 33-4 over a stretch of about 11 minutes of game time. And Emmanuel Sharp, even though he fouled out in this game, again, it was not Houston's best effort. Emmanuel Sharp finishes with 23 points and 6 rebounds. Kingston Flemings was just flat out off in this game. He missed his first 11 shots but finished with 12 points and 7 rebounds.
All right, next one is TCU at Oklahoma State.
Oh, man, this one was absolutely wild. It was a game that TCU needed, and they nearly blew it. TCU allows a backside rebound at the end of regulation that Oklahoma State deposits in order to send this game to overtime. Luckily, TCU wins this thing in overtime, at least luckily for them. They get the season sweep on Oklahoma State. David Punch was very quiet against Iowa State, and then it was quiet in the first half of this one. But he scored 17 of his 19 points in the second half, including having TCU 8 of TCU's first 10 points in the second half. So TCU really got going at the beginning of the second half of this one. And that's where they created some separation, and that was all because of David Punch. But yeah, Oklahoma State made it very interesting down the stretch. TCU does not box out. Oklahoma State puts the ball in to send the game to overtime, and then TCU wins this thing in overtime.
Yeah, it felt like an NCAA tournament bubble watch elimination game, and Oklahoma State takes the L. TCU with the win, now part of the last four in Joe Lunardi's bracketology, and because Oklahoma State is still in the top 75 of the NCAA net rankings, this is a quad one win for TCU because it was a true road environment. They now have 5 quad one wins, way more than anybody else being considered for the NCAA tournament. Just a massive win for TCU, and they scored the first 7 of the first 9 points in overtime after, to your point, blowing it in regulation to give Oklahoma State a chance. Great job by Jamie Dixon to kind of settle the troops and get them locked in for that extra session.
West Virginia at UCF.
West Virginia at UCF. This one, West Virginia gets the win. Impressive win for West Virginia. They improved to 7-5. Meanwhile, UCF, who a week or so ago looked like a lock for the NCAA tournament, they lose at home to West Virginia here. Big win for the Mountaineers. Honor Huff with 21 points. West Virginia shot 43% from the floor, but was +6 on the glass and had 13 offensive rebounds. That was a huge piece to this game. West Virginia was down 14 points in the second half of this one, and somehow they were able to come back, built on their physicality and the glass.
Yeah, 14 points in the second half at home. You've got to close that out. West Virginia ended the game on an 8-0 run to finally grab the lead with about 2.5 minutes to go, and then Honor Huff hit a critical 3 with 59 seconds left to push their lead, what was 4-7. That was really the dagger. Massive win for the Mountaineers. All of a sudden, they have an NCAA tournament resume at 16-9 and 7-5 in league, 2 games above 500. I don't see how the committee would leave them out if the tournament started today. That's a quality quad one road win for West Virginia.
Texas Tech at Arizona.
Oh, going with this one before the Kansas-Iowa State game, I see. Okay, this one, Texas Tech wins in overtime, 78-75. Arizona averages 45 points in the paint. Tech and Arizona were equal in this game at points in the paint with 26. JT Toppin was special in this one. I think he inserted himself in the Player of the Year discussion. And I thought the difference here was JT Toppin and Tech being +21 from 3, James.
That's a huge difference, and with Arizona's lack of three-point shooting, when teams hang with them on the glass, it's problematic, and Arizona only out-rebounded Texas Tech by 2. The physicality, and with Luke Bamboye back in the lineup and Mosley, all of a sudden you have 2 extra bodies to come in, set screens, rebound, and foul, and that frees up JT Toppin to be even more efficient. His 16th double-double this season. He had 8 points in overtime after it was the Texas Tech guards that really stole the show in regulation to get that thing into the overtime session. Texas Tech held Arizona to 39% shooting. They are getting better defensively and a very dangerous team this time of year.
Yeah, plenty more to come on this game. A week ago, Arizona was undefeated, 23-0, and then a week later they've lost 2 games, which shows maybe the top of the Big 12 eating the rest of the top of the Big 12. The top 5 teams in the Big 12, it's going to be a I mean, just a slog till the end here, James.
Yeah.
All right, final one, guys. Kansas at Iowa State.
Yeah, you can see this one coming, at least from my vantage point. Kansas had won 8 straight. Iowa State had not lost at home. They improved to 14-0. Kansas could not handle the ball pressure and trapping off the screens that Iowa State was doing. They had 10 turnovers in the first half. Iowa State had 8 first-half offensive rebounds to Kansas's 1. And that's, I think, really where this game was won. Iowa State built a 10-point lead at halftime and then extended early in the second half to 20. They got up to 24 at one point. This was actually the largest home win against Kansas ever for Iowa State.
This was the biggest stunner for me of the weekend. I thought this would be a final possession game, and Iowa State started cold, 1 for 10 from the floor.
Yeah.
But then they ripped off a 20-2 extended run over about 5+ minutes to go up 36-22. And then the second half knockout punch was a 20-7 extended run in the first 5.5 minutes. They made 6 straight threes during that burst. They held Kansas to 31% shooting during that stretch. And the turnovers. Kansas had 13. Iowa State turnovers was a huge issue in the first matchup. Only had 6 miscues in this game. I was stunned by this performance, and all of a sudden I have a very different view of Iowa State.
Yeah, that top 5 of the Big 12, man. It's tough. Derek Peterson just 10 points on 3 of 10 shooting. He spent the majority of the second half on the bench, quote-unquote, resting up for the game Wednesday against Oklahoma State. Plenty more to come on this game and, of course, the Texas Tech-Arizona game, including some slashed tires from Arizona fans. On the way next, though, we talk with Kellis Robinette of the Wichita Eagle Kansas City Star about Jerome Tang being fired for cause at K-State. We'll get into that with Kellis next. With James Wesley, I'm Ari Tepkin. It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.